And Henry, Eamon McCann and others have said, look, for many, many people in the IRA and Sinn Féin, the bottom line was never a united Ireland. It was never getting the Brits out of Ireland. It was Catholic equality. And as Eamon would say, it was the Civil Rights Movement. And that was what they were really, bottom line, out for. What do you think about that idea?
Well, I mean, I have a lot of respect for him, but I think, no, I mean, I think there are two reasons why people joined up. People joined up, A, because they hated the Brits and the Orange Men, let's be honest. They wanted to get back at the state, i.e. the Orangies, or they wanted to get back at the British Army that were kicking down doors. I remember they kicked down my door, I remember in 1971, so I have some experience of this. And then there was other people who just wanted to join up for United Ireland. There were romantic Republicans who wanted to join up. I don't think anybody joined up and sacrificed themselves or lost their youth. And let's not forget, this is a youth rebellion. Most of the fighters were young men in their teens and early 20s. They didn't do that because just that they thought, oh, we'll get parity of esteem in an Irish Language Act and all that jazz. You know, no way. I mean, it was to get back at the state. Oh, and their leaders channeled that energy into what was called the armed struggle.
And Anthony, do you agree with that?
Well, I think it's absolutely right. I mean, it's becoming the point now where fewer and fewer people are prepared to challenge that view. I mean, people join the IRA for a variety of reasons, but I don't know anybody who joined the IRA for Catholic equality within the north of Ireland. And if you suggested to anybody in the IRA and the hits blocks, any volunteer that this would be what the outcome was, they'd laughed at you. You'd have been guilty of heresy. They'd have called you a traitor, somebody who was trying to sell out. Yet when the leadership decided that this was a good idea, they suddenly became great leaders, the greatest leadership ever, and heroes of the peace process. So, I mean, again, and it's, I suppose in many ways it might be new to the audience, but myself and Henry have discussed this at length and written about it and commented on it. That in many ways it's old hat to us, and we are a wee bit surprised that anybody is surprised at it.
You're listening to Radio Free Aaron here in New York City, and with us on the line is Henry McDonald. Henry, you wrote for the London Observer, isn't it?
Sure.
Yeah, the London Observer. He has a book out, Gun, Smoke, and Mirrors, and Anthony McIntyre, The Death of Irish Republicanism. Anthony McIntyre was on the IFC channel nationwide here last night. It was on some of the bars here in Manhattan. And Anthony, I don't know if you know, but they have subtitles when you're speaking now. I was sure you were speaking English, but you might have been speaking Irish, and they put subtitles underneath you. Have you seen it?
I seen it, just I managed to see it on the internet. Maybe it's because I was speaking honestly and they're not used to Republicans.
Well, he goes, I can't believe what this guy's saying. I got to put it up there, in American English. But it was great to see you and Eamon McCann on national television, just giving your own point of view on that. Now, I want to get to another subject about rewriting history or trying to justify what you're doing. There's a thing that goes on every year in the North about wearing the poppy or celebrating the British Army's role in World War I and World War II. You had Tom Hartley, who's now the Lord Mayor of Belfast, laying a wreath on behalf of the British Army at different times of his career. Then you have the leadership of Sinn Féin saying join the Royal Ulster Constabulary or Northern Ireland Police Force. But then just a few weeks ago, when they wanted to celebrate the British Army from the northern part of Ireland coming back from Afghanistan, they said, well, we have to demonstrate against that. When George Bush was in the North, who caused all these wars, have everyone sent there, Sinn Féin leadership went and met with them. They'll be coming over this St. Patrick's Day, although it won't be George Bush they're meeting anymore. But they had no problem. I mean, how do they do it? Where they could tell you to join one part of the British establishment, but we want to protest another part, join one part, but don't join another, and we'll lay a wreath for the soldiers that died in World War I, but not for the ones that died in Afghanistan or Iraq.
Well, I think one of the ways to do it is they've got a ready-made constituency, just like the Unionists have a ready-made constituency, and it's a zero-sum game. We win, they lose, we win. And it's just the way it's played. So they don't have to do a lot of work with their constituency to get votes, and the constituency, by and large, just let them get on with it, which means that the nonsense that they talk isn't really listened to or internalized, and the people just say, vote them again. And, Tom Hartley, for example, the main surprise to me that Tom Hartley was not on a float waving to his fellow British subjects leading the RIR UDR parade. Because when you said the word career there, you rightly described it in terms of Tom Hartley. Tom Hartley's an arch careerist and has never been anything but. Tom Hartley's no more Republican than Ian Paisley. In the now of Republican credentials, Paisley's obviously different in that he's a firm unionist, but in terms of Republicanism, Tom Hartley, I just laugh when people mention Tom Hartley and Lord Mayor of Belfast.
Can I say something about that protest? Because I actually attended that parade as a reporter, covering what was meant. Well, it was all predicted to be lots of trouble. Okay, that the Sinn Féin demonstration and the Loyalist demonstration would clash, and they came very close. But in the end, as another correspondent said to me, it was just pageantry. It was just like a sham fight. It wasn't like the old days when, Republican demonstrations trying to get into the city centre would end up with clashes with the security forces. It was all very well marshalled and polite, and, no one tried to disrupt the British military parade. It really was an example of pageantry politics, if you like. Bring people down the streets to protest, but don't do anything about it. Now, I have my own views on Afghanistan. I actually think NATO are right to be in Afghanistan. I'd rather the Taliban were out of power, but that's another matter. Nonetheless, in terms of where republicanism is, or mainstream republicanism, whatever you want to call it, I think it was a very telling day in the sense that nothing happened. It passed off without much incident.
But I think more than that, Henry. Sinn Féin made that move for two reasons. Firstly, they were bounced into it by the Republican group Aragay, who organised a protest, and Sinn Féin weren't happy. Sinn Féin probably would rather not have been at the City Hall. But once they decided that they would go there, or wherever they were, protesting in the town, once they decided that they would go, they try to make use of it in terms of politics by saying to the DUP leadership and the British government, we're very angry, we're putting our people out in the streets. And that was a means to bounce the DUP into better concealing Sinn Féin's stance on the question of the devolution of police and justice, and at least pretend that they were giving Sinn Féin something. And the DUP didn't buy into it, and Sinn Féin were left stranded in the centre of the town as second-class citizens, and the Republicans were forced up the road in a sense as third-class citizens, and the Unionists got the town as first-class citizens.
Well, I'm glad you talk about the deal. I'm sure your listeners will have known that the power sharing executive, or power splitting, whatever you want to call it, power carve-up, is back on the road again, and it kicked off with its first meeting on Thursday. It's worth noting for a couple of things that, again, the mainstream media have not noted. For example, Sinn Féin's key demand during the kind of 4 months odd standoff between themselves and Paisley's, or the DUP, was that they get a firm date for the devolution and transfer of powers over the police from Westminster to Belfast. They didn't get the date. The deal is very, very vague. Nor did they get an Irish Language Act. There will be no substantial Irish Language Act. There will be some special status given to the Irish language, but there will not be an Irish language that puts Irish on complete equality and on par with English. That's not going to happen. So, again, watered-down demands, and the DUP getting what they want eventually.
Henry, I find
they always used to say, God made the Catholics and the Armalite made them equal. Yeah. And the minute they lost the Armalites, they went back to being very unequal. And the DUP have out.
Well, I disagree with that slogan, but
they were dumped on everything.
But I find this whole matter of the transfer of policing back to the Stormont Northern Ireland government very ironic, because those are long memories now that the last unionist government at Stormont quit because that was taken away from them. And
here it was reformed under the Hunt report recommended that it never be given back to local powers.
But that was the union, and now Republicans are saying you must give it back to the Northern Ireland government.